Hello, my fellow unicorns. Today I'm going to be sharing my small collection of Choose Your Own Adventure books. These are really nostalgic and vintage children's books where they have a horror or sci-fi bent to them and fantastic artwork. So let's get started. This is Who Are You by Edward Packard. And will you ever reclaim the life you lost? You wake up lying in a ditch alongside an interstate highway. You have no identification, no memory, and a terrifying question. Who are you? You begin a desperate search to discover your identity. The trail takes you to curious places, especially when you meet a runaway with connections to people who may be able to help. But in a world of strangers, who will you trust? And then it tells you all the twists and turns of the different pages. And I just absolutely love the artwork. This kid is just looks like he bumped his head and he's trying to figure things out. And there's a beautiful sunset and a road ahead, a weird, oddly shaped road. This next one is one of my favorites because I love vampires. I know it's a very stereotypical girly thing, but anything with werewolves or vampires I love. So now this is Vampire Invaders. So we have sort of like a alien vampire motif. This one says, can you stop alien vampires from taking over the earth? You are one of the world's leading experts on vampires. You've been invited to attend an emergency conference at the National Space Institute where you and the top officials from the FBI, the Air Force, and NASA are examining evidence that vampires from outer space have invaded the Earth. Your expertise is needed to track down the vampires. Where should your mission begin? In Oklahoma, where a suspicious UFO was recently sighted? Or in New Orleans, where a gruesome vampire murder has just taken place? Then it tells you, again, the pages where you can turn to. But I love the idea of mixing vampires and aliens in a fun mishmash. And the artwork is just so cool. I love how the artist captured the rays of the sun beaming through the spaceship. This is a very good read. This one I also remember when I was young. Invaders from Within. There's a huge ship and some green creatures and a boy. And this one is aliens have landed, but are they friend or foe? While visiting your aunt and uncle at their ranch in Northern California, you decide to go hiking on a nearby mountain. You're prepared for the dangerous trail, but not for the sight that awaits you at the top, an immense dome rising out of the grass, glowing with a mysterious rose-tinted green light. It looks like it's from outer space, but you can't be sure. There's only one way to find out. Your impulse is to investigate, but perhaps you should go for help. What will you do? So, that's a fun little story. I absolutely love the colors of the illustrations. I'm very big on illustrations, so this just always catches my eye. Every time I saw it when I was a kid, I would gravitate to this one, and it was a fun read too. This one is like, out of all of them, this one is my favorite. I love Horror House, but I admit I get frustrated with it because I'm trying to read all the versions of the story, and sometimes I can never find how to get to one place. So yeah, sometimes I just read it straight through to understand what's really happening. So it's kind of like cheating, but that's okay. This one's really fun. So it's about your aunt and cousins have just moved into an old Victorian house that many people think is haunted. Your relatives have been hearing and seeing strange and terrifying things, mysterious cries for help, a dead rabbit in the library, deep rumblings in the night, and you decided to investigate. Shining your flashlight around the house's eerie basement, you could swear you saw a figure darting behind the furnace. Maybe it was just a shadow. There's only one way to find out. So this one's a very interesting one. I always have fun reading this. You can tell it's got a little bit more wear and tear, but that's okay. Oh yeah. The Worst Day of Your Life. Ooh, book 100. This all looks terrible. Gloriously terrible. That cake looks good though, doesn't it? Can your bad luck get even worse? You're headed for your worst vacation ever, while the rest of your family is vacationing in Hawaii. You have to work on your Uncle Norbert's pig farm, raising money to replace the roof you accidentally destroyed with your gunpowder rocket. Suddenly, the bus you are on sputters to a halt, and it's still 6 miles away from the farm. You're hot, hungry, tired, and thirsty, and big dark clouds are building up on the horizon. It'll take hours before a tow truck arrives and gets you going again. So this one could be full of surprises and a bunch of bad luck. Honestly, I have to know who does the illustrations because they're so well done. Okay. It says cover art by Catherine Huerta. And then interior illustrations by Frank Bull. And this was, wow, 1990. So, pretty old. I'm actually curious if the same artist did covers. Did all the covers or just the one? Well, it says here illustrated by Ron Wing, but I don't know if they mean the cover art or just the inside. Oh, okay. Cover art by Bill Dodge and interior illustrations by Ron Wing. So, and this is 1993. So different people doing different illustrations. Now, oh wait, this one, actually, I gotta find out the other two. So, cover art by David Mattingly and interior illustrations by Frank Bohm. So that's the second time Frank has made an appearance here. And then we have cover art by David Mattingly and interior illustrations by Ron Wing. So I guess they have like a small team of people who interchange between the cover art and the interior illustrations. Yeah, this is illustrated by Frank Bull. But the cover art is by Bill Schmidt. Now, look at this cover art. Isn't that amazing? This one I actually haven't read, so I need to read it. Ghost Train. And the boy running from it with his dog, and just the fiery train and the smoke. It's just so amazing. Very eye-catching. Let's see here. Okay, this was 1992. Cover art by Bill Dodge and interior illustrations by Frank Bull. And it's a mystery. Can you solve the mystery of the phantom train? While visiting your friend Harry's farm, you discover that someone has been sabotaging his land. Late one night, you see a mysterious old Indian woman heading for the orchards, and you decide to follow her. Suddenly, you hear the sound of a train whistle coming from the abandoned railroad tracks nearby. You know that there hasn't been a train through here for over 50 years. You want to investigate, but you don't want to let the Indian woman get away. What will you do? What will you do? I just love this image. It's so striking. Beautiful. Now I have a whole stack right here of some more Choose Your Own Adventures. Hopefully you guys remember some of these, for those of you who grew up with it, of course. And if you haven't, I highly recommend you check them out. They're at children's sections in the library, or you could find them on eBay or Goodwill or any kind of thrift store. A lot of people give these away, but they actually sell for a decent amount of money, I think. So it's worth collecting. But I'm not going to sell these. I'm just want to have them. This is Statue of Liberty Adventure. And your class is visiting the Statue of Liberty, and your first stop is the museum and its pedestal. One picture shows a boat full of immigrants in 1907, and one of the kids in the photo looks exactly like you. Suddenly, the floor lurches strangely, And when you catch your breath, you're standing on the deck of a huge ship in the middle of the ocean. It's 1907, and you're a passenger on your way to the United States. Oh, so it's sort of like a time travel motif. That's pretty cool. And you have a boy and a girl. Looks like fun. And yeah, this was 1986. And I don't see the illustrator. I know the interiors are by Ted and Nick, but it doesn't say who did the cover. Interesting. Oh, I guess it's illustrated solely by Ted and Nick. This one's a seaside mystery. Got like a mermaid. Is a girl in an interesting Victorian looking house. And a storm coming. It's pretty. Illustrated by Judith Mitchell. This one, let's see how old it is. This is 1987. Isn't that pretty? You're spending the summer at a seaside boarding house. One moonlit night, you hear someone crying on the beach. You peek out your window and see a mermaid named Tana. You'd like to help her, but she's in a terrible mood. I don't know where the rest of the mermaids are, she snaps. I've been looking for 2 days, but I can't find any of them. And if you don't want to hear any more, you'll have to follow me underwater. Oh, and if you want to hear any more, you'll have to follow me underwater. So, do you follow her or not? That's the question. Here we are again with another space vampire. This one's another fun concept. And it says, a bloodthirsty vampire from a distant planet has occupied a spaceship in the outer reaches of the solar system. As the Space Academy's top recruit, it's your job to capture the vampire before he reaches Earth, where the alien creature plans to feast on the planet's population. But as soon as you board the spacecraft, the vampire immediately corners you. What should you do? Well, run is probably what I would do. This is very similar to the other one. Another Judith Mitchell. This is 1987. And I guess all of the illustrations are done by Judith Mitchell. That's pretty. I love how each book gives warnings before you embark on your literary adventure. This is called Roller Star. And it says, you've been totally into inline skating since you joined a club called the Streaks. When one of your teachers announces that he's going to coach the club, some of the other streaks that it sounds like a drag, and you decide to drop out. Oh, and decide to drop out. You like the fun and freedom of being a streak, but you know you're probably going to need some real training if you want to be a blading star. What will you do? So this one sounds a little more straightforward. Another Ron Wayne illustration. 1993. And the cover art is by Catherine Huerta, and the inside is by Ron Wayne. This one, sorry if you heard that, my neighbors, since I live in an apartment, my neighbors can sometimes be a little loud, so I'm sorry if you hear anything weird. Oh, this one's called Hijacked. Looks dangerous. You're on your way home from school one day when your bus is hijacked. You and your friends are taken to a remote island somewhere in the Pacific, where you are held hostage by a group of international terrorists who plan to take over the world. Somehow, you must get off the island in time to stop them. A seaplane docked at the end of the pier offers a means of escape, but you're not sure if this plan is too risky. What will you do? Yeah, that is a conundrum. You know, why do they always want to take over the world? Don't villains ever know by now that they can never take over the world? That it's just too big to conquer by themselves. Yeah, this one is made in 1990, and cover art is by Romis Koukalis, and interior illustrations by Frank Bull. So I guess Frank does a lot of these. And then we've got the first Olympics. And I don't know if you can hear that, but there's a train that comes through my area every night. And so sometimes I could hear it. I don't know if you can hear it right now. But anyway, it says, you are a contestant in the first Olympics. You are touring the Olympic ruins in Greece when you wander into a dark cave. Suddenly you find yourself caught up in a procession of athletes that passes ivory white temples along the road. You've traveled back in time to the ancient Olympic Games. The contests are about to begin, and now you're a competitor. Will you sign up to compete in the wrestling event or test your skills as a chariot driver? That sounds like fun. So, here we have the chariot drawn by horses, and let's see how old this book is. Illustrated by Leslie Morrow. This one, 1988. cover art by the 1992 is by Romus Koukalis, and interior designs or illustrations by Leslie Morrill. So I guess it was originally published 1988 and then reissued in 1992. So I guess this is like the 1992 version. Then we have Earthquake. And this one says, "What will you do when the big one hits?" You're visiting San Francisco when suddenly a strange rumbling fills the air and buildings begin to shake. It's a major earthquake. You look around and see an old man pinned to the sidewalk by rubble. You want to help him, but a friend of yours may be in even bigger trouble nearby. Every second counts. What are you going to do? That's pretty scary. Especially because I used to live in LA, and so I was always thinking, not always, but I would often think, oh, what's going to happen when the big one hits, and where am I going to be? How do I react? Things like that. And I also like to watch disaster movies, and I always try to put myself in the main character's shoes, like how would I survive, and I think like that. And illustrated by Hal Frank. So this is a 1992 edition, and the cover art is by James Warhola, and the interior illustrations are by Hal Frank. So this one's pretty fun, exciting. Here we have another mystery of the sacred stones. And I guess we have like an Egyptian here. So it seems paranormal. Can you unlock the deadly secret of the sacred stones? A trip to Florida seems like a great way to spend a summer vacation until you find one of the mysterious Calusa gallstones. According to an ancient Indian legend, the stone has a mate, and if the two are paired, a terrible power will be unleashed. You're determined to find the stone's mate and destroy them both before a deadly time-traveling spirit can use their power. But will you be able to locate the other sacred stone and stop this ancient evil before it's too late? Reminds me of The Mummy, the movie, 90s movies. This is a really fun illustration. Leslie Morrill. This is a 1988, and the interior art is by Leslie Morrill, and the cover art is by James Warhola. So these are my little collection of choose your own adventures. Some of them are more like about everyday, or more, I guess I want to say, realistic stories, and then I really enjoy the ones that have a fun supernatural or paranormal bent to them, because they're just more fun when you can put a little more magic in your day. it's always a little more fun. So, actually, I'm going to put my horror house at the front because that's my favorite. But anyway, I love these. They're great for basically anybody who can read. So I think it doesn't matter how old these stories are. I think kids today would really enjoy them. And I think they'd enjoy the illustrations. So thank you all so much for watching.